So we just finished up a couple lessons on linear expressions. Now we're going to move into linear equations. And I call this an intro, but I know that you guys have seen equations before, but this is just hopefully a good way to refresh your memory. So some vocabulary words to start out with. An equation is when we have two expressions that are set equal to each other. An equation will always have, obviously, an equal sign. Okay, so two expressions with an equal sign between them. Here are some examples. Notice that an expression doesn't have to have variables with it. It can just be a number. And it also doesn't have to have any variables in it at all. So those are some examples of equations. Just two expressions on either side of an equal sign. A couple more vocabulary words. You're going to be asked to solve equations. So what am I asking when I want you to solve? To solve, it means to find the value for the variable in the expression that makes the equation true. Okay, so for example, an equation might have an x in it, so it would be your job to solve that equation and figure out what x is equal to. And then that brings us to what a solution is. A solution is the value for that variable that makes the equation true. So if I tell you to solve, it's the process and the steps to finding the value for the variable. The solution is that value for the variable. Okay, so here's my example that we're going to start out with. Damien and his friends went trick-or-treating. The next day they got together and they counted all their candy. Damien had twice as much candy as Nick. Bo had 10 more pieces than Damien. And the following model and expression represent the amount of candy the boys have together. Okay, so C right here, this represents how much, let's see, Nick has. Okay, let's see, Damien had twice as much candy as Nick, so if Nick had one set of candy, Damien would have two, so this is Damien right here. And Bo had 10 more pieces than Damien, so Bo has 2 candies plus 10. So this section right here represents what Bo has. Okay, and if we write this out in an equation, it's C plus 2C plus 2C plus 10. C plus 2C plus 2 plus C plus 10. Okay, so there's our expression. Now it says, what if we also knew that altogether the boys have 230 pieces of candy? So this whole set right here represents 230 pieces of candy. So in our equation, we would set this equal to 230 pieces of candy. So if I wanted to solve this equation, let's see what that process would look like with this picture. Okay, so obviously there's a plus 10 right here. So what if I just got rid of 10 on both of them? That means I would take away 10 from 230, meaning 220. So on my equation, it means I would take away 10 on both sides, right? 10 from the expression and 10 from the total. And when I did that, I have C plus 2C plus 2C equals 220. And that's true, right? I have C, 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 C. C plus 2C plus 2C is 220. Okay, so now I need to divide up what's left into 5 equal parts, because that's how many, divisions of candy are left. So 220 in 5 equal parts. Let's grab a calculator. We'll take 220 divided by 5 is 44. So that means each one of these C's has 44 pieces of candy in it. So I've solved it, and the solution is C equals 44. So over here, what it would look like is, notice there's 5 C's over here. C plus 2C plus 2C was 5C, and then I divided by 5. And when I divide by 5, I got C equals 44. Okay, so this is what it looks like with the picture. This is what it looks like with the equation. Now, can we check our answer somehow to see if we got it right? Yes, we can, and this is a great skill to have. You can do this anytime you're given an equation and you find an answer. We simply plug in our answer back in for the variable and check to see if it's still true. So anytime we see a C in the equation, we're going to plug in a 44. And it's nice, when you plug in values for variables, it's nice to put it in parentheses so you keep track of your signs, positive and negative. And now we want to know, does this equal 230? Well, we have 44, 2 times 44 is 88, plus another 88, plus 10. We want to know if all of that equals 230. I'm going to grab a calculator, speed things up here. We have 44 plus 88 plus 88 plus 10, and we get 230. And 230 does equal 230. So our answer was right, and that's how we can check our answer. Finally, another bit of information that we can get from solving this is we can determine how much candy each one of these boys has. They told us in the problem the expression for how much candy each person has. Now we simply plug in this 44 for C on each expression to see how much each person had. So Damien had 2C was his candy amount. So it'd be 2 times 44, which is 88 pieces. Nick, it's just C, which is 44. So Nick had 44 pieces. He got the short end of the stick there. And Bo had 2 times 44 plus 10. So that's 88 plus 10, which is 98. So Bo won. He had 98 pieces of candy. So that's just an example of how we can use a picture to solve an equation and all the information that we can get after we've solved.